Hi guys, this is gsmo.com and I'm here with the Motorola Edge 50 Fusion for a full review. We can call it easily a lighter version of the Motorola Edge 50 Pro, and at the same time you should know it was launched in May 2024, so it's as fresh as they get. It's a mid-range handset with a very light body and a hot pink color hue, 50 megapixel main camera with optical image stabilization, very fast charging, and believe it or not, a big battery in this small waistline. IP certification, and of course there's Ready for your productivity needs available here, so you can stream apps and do so much more, be more productive, make better video calls, and connect to your desktop or laptop with ease. Okay, so a lighter Motorola Edge 50 Pro, let's get things going, and I'm going to discuss the design first and foremost. Aside from the hot pink hue, there are two blue versions, and I have to say that the best thing about the phone is that it's very narrow, so it's quite easy to hold and to wield, even though it's a bit long. It's a 6.7 incher, although you wouldn't tell. I've seen phones which are 6.5 inches and are bigger than this one. Measures 7.9 millimeters in thickness and weighs 174.9 grams. It has IP60 certification, which means it can take some dust and waterproofing, so yeah, quite nice. A curved screen at the front, as you can well see for yourself, making it look even more premium than it is. And just so you know, the back is silicone polymer, which is made to imitate leather. It's ecologic leather, and we have a plastic frame. The build is quite solid. The handset is a looker. It's got narrow bezels. What more could you want? Now, the screen you're seeing right here, this one is a 6.7 inch OLED, plastic OLED, as Motorola usually relies on, with a resolution of 2400 over 1080 pixels. It's got 144 Hz refresh rate, at least in this part of Europe, and promises up to 1600 nits of brightness. It's got a crazy 91% screen to body ratio, and the viewing experience goes something like this. Okay, so it's definitely immersive on account of the narrow bezels. It's very bright, crisp and vivid, one of the best screens you'll see in the mid-range segment. And not only that, deep blacks, pure whites, and wide view angles, and excellent contrast even in the full sunlight. Now, you'll receive confirmation for the quality of the screen just by looking here in the test we did. Okay, so this is the handsets page on our sister website. We have here the testing. We achieved 798 lux units when it comes to brightness tests. We surpassed the Honor 90 and the Galaxy S23 Fan Edition, but we scored below the Samsung Galaxy A55 and the Realme 12 Pro Plus. There are some tweaks which can be applied to this screen, so you can go here, display, you got your brightness level, adaptive brightness, and you got your colors, which can be set to natural, radiant, or vivid. So yeah, everything is based on your own preference. We also have this color palette here. Then we have the refresh rate, which can be set to auto 60, 120 or 144 Hz, edge lighting, and flicker prevention. Now going further, we delve inside the phone where we can find the CPU, which I'm sure you've heard of, Qualcomm Snapdragon 7S Gen 2, 4nm octa-core with the Adreno 710 GPU, also present on the Redmi Note 13 Pro 5G and on the Realme 12 Pro Plus, plus the Poco X6. We have here no less than 12 gigs of RAM and half a terabyte of storage, which is quite nice to see, although it's just UFS 2.2. There's no lag and also no microSD. It can run any game, and I even installed the Call of Duty Mobile Warzone on it, and it ran without a hassle. So yeah, no heat, no problem, it can handle games, but there's something to mention here. The fact is that we did a throttle test, and let's see how that panned out. So go here, and we go here, and screenshots. This is the throttle test. As you can see, it dropped 20% performance in 15 minutes. I mean, it's just so-so. The performance low starting around the 10-minute mark. So yeah, for a mid-range, it's okay, although I've seen better, to be honest. Now, when it comes to benchmarks, I'm going to go here and show you some of those. We have this one here, and let me start off with Antutu 10. In Antutu 10, we're just above the Oppo Reno 11F and the Galaxy A35. We're below the Nothing Phone 2A and the Realme 12 Pro Plus. Now, we also have Geekbench 6, and in the multi-core subtest, here we are just above the Galaxy A35 again, and also beating the Huawei Nova 11 Pro. By the way, we're surpassing the Galaxy A54. We're below the Honor 90 and the OnePlus Nord 3, just so you know. Now, in 3D Mark Slingshot Extreme ES 3.1, here we are with this score, finally beating Realme 12 Pro Plus and also surpassing the Galaxy A34. We're below the Samsung Galaxy A54 and below the Huawei Nova 11 Pro. I would say these are good mid-range phone results, and we're somewhere between the performance of the Galaxy A35 and the A55. Now, are there temperature compromises? Let's find out. So, in benchmarks we achieved 34 degrees Celsius, while in games we achieved 32 degrees Celsius. So as you can see, there's no trace of overheating here. And now let's talk about the battery. Okay, so now let's talk about the battery. It's a 5000 mAh unit which charges at 68 watts. On paper, it should bring it to 50% in 15 minutes. Here we are with the results we achieved. So we achieved 24 hours and 20 minutes of continuous video playback, which is not bad. We actually beat flagships like the OnePlus 12. We also beat the Nothing Phone 2a and the Honor Magic 5 Lite. We scored below the Honor Magic 6 Lite and the Realme 12 Pro Plus. When it comes to continuous usage, we're at the 11 hours and 54 minutes mark, which is not bad, but somehow expected more seeing the video playback. I mean, we did surpass the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus and the Honor 90, but we scored below the Samsung Galaxy A55 and the Realme 12 Pro Plus, as well as the Nothing Phone 2a. For charging, we are required 1 hour and 11 minutes, which is quite a lot. However, we did not have the official charger for the charging, so we had to use one, which is basically a 30-watt charger and unofficial. Still, in 30 minutes you get 46%, so you were pretty close to, well, a decent level of charge once you have to go to work or something like that. We also have features like battery saver, also optimized charging and overcharge protect. Too bad we didn't get the official charger with the device in our test unit. Now on the acoustics front, we have a stereo setup. This is the bottom speaker, and the top speaker is the one here in the earpiece. We have here the inscription Dolby Atmos, we have here a microphone. We don't have an audio jack in this slim waistline. Speaking of Dolby Atmos, you go to the Moto app and all the way down to the Dolby Atmos section. You learn more about the profiles and landscape stereo, and you can also do some, well, tweaking. There's spatial audio for audio from compatible media, which is more immersive. There's smart audio, music, movie, game, podcast, and in the custom area you can play with your 10 channels. Also, the equalizer can be set to manual, treble, bass boost, vocal boost. There's also surround virtualizer and a volume leveler. I'm going to leave things to music because honestly it makes it sound the best, and let's actually check out a tune, a test tune. Okay, a bunch of ideas. I have to say that the volume is not exactly mind-blowing, except for the moment when you turn on the smart profile or the spatial audio profile. However, those will result in distortion, so you better stick to music. The bass is so-so, the guitars are pretty well rendered, and the high notes were fine. Take care with the distortion and choose your profile wisely. It's prone to distortion if you listen to metal music. Not so much if you listen to EDM. And by the way, the bottom speaker is doing the heavy lifting, not the top one. When it comes to the volume, we did an acoustic sample test and achieved 83.9 decibels at the top speaker and 87.7 decibels at the bottom speaker. Now, with this bottom value, which is actually quite solid, we were able to surpass the likes of Samsung Galaxy A55 and Realme 12 Pro Plus. We were below the Huawei Nova 11 Pro and below the Realme 11 Pro Plus. In games, it's 95.5 decibels. I mean, it's just okay, above Realme 12 Pro Plus and the Galaxy A55. But below the Moto G54 Power and the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus. So yeah, expected just a bit more on the volume department. Now, as far as the camera is concerned, you can see a punch hole here. It's for a 32 megapixel camera with Full HD capture, HDR and f2.5 aperture for your selfie needs. The back is graced with a dual camera. There's a 50 megapixel main sensor with optical image stabilization and f1.9 aperture, plus dual pixel face detection autofocus. The 13 megapixel ultra-wide camera has a gimmick. It has autofocus for your macro needs. Also f2.2 aperture and 120 degree capture. This is the LED flash, and we have here available 4K 30 frames per second capture, just in case you were wondering. Now the camera options are pretty typical for a Motorola. They haven't changed in years. Panorama, photo booth, spot color photo and video, night vision, dual capture photo and video, time lapse, and ultra resolution, as well as tilt shift. You can scan content like documents. There's a pro mode with the option to take a raw capture, tweak the exposure, ISO, shutter, white balance, and focus. You can also play with the portrait. We got the photo department here, and the option of color profiles like auto enhance or natural. Then there's the video section with special stabilization options, off, on, and horizon lock, which can be set to vertical or horizontal depending on your needs. And finally, slow motion. Well, I do not see a night mode, which kind of puzzles me. Oh, excuse me, it's actually the night vision I mentioned before. Okay, now I think it's time to show you the gallery of shots we've taken with this beautiful phone. Okay, so now the gallery of photos taken with this handset starts right about here. And as you can see, we have a ton of photos with flowers, and I'm talking about close-ups as well as macros and other things like that. I would say they're pretty well done and pretty detailed, actually this being one of the strong suits of the handset. Some of them get really close, so one of the best macros I've seen recently on mid-range phones. It takes a bit of struggle to properly focus, but I'm also loving the portrait shots of objects with a very nicely blurred background. Now, let's get to other things, like for example the color calibration. It seems to be fine. I don't see any overexposure or any problem like that. The zoom is, I would say, just decent. I find that these reds are a bit too intense for my liking. And the ultra-wide capture is also quite decent when it comes to the level of detail achieved here. Okay, so yeah, let's see. So portrait flowers are fine, textures are also fine. We also have this fence here, which is used by us to calibrate or properly see colors. They're pretty well calibrated, maybe except for the reds, which are a bit too intense for my liking. We also have a bunch of selfies, which are actually quite decent here. And the background blur is correctly applied, even though you can actually apply it afterwards from Google Photos. I love the texture here and the details. You can really go in depth and you can see the skin pores, even though you're working with 8 megapixels by combining 4 pixels in one from the 32 megapixel camera. Okay, and so the selfies are fine. Now we get to a more scenery shot with a very crude green, the likes of which you get on a Pixel, even though every once in a while in the background you see some overexposure and heavy saturation, oversaturation. The zoom is not very impressive. It's at least sufficient to tell what's written on a panel in the distance, but you'll notice some zoom grain appearing after 3x and things like that. Okay, so the ultra wide capture is also here, and I have to say it's darker, but in a good way. The colors are kept in check in a more realistic manner. So all in all, I'm happy with the colors. I'm very happy with the close-ups. With the close-ups, bokeh and selfies standing out of the crowd the most from all of these types of captures. So once again, a regular shot, and also this one here with a police band, and you can actually not tell which one is the ultra wide shot and which one is the regular one on account of the fact that it's not a very wide shot, so to say. Another zoom test with this shop logo here. Zoom 2x, 3x, 4x, 5x. I would say that at about 3x things are sufficiently detailed. Afterwards, well, not so much. And even more captures here. This looks pretty much like an ultra wide. As you can see on the sides, there's a bit of deformation, but not exaggerated as I've seen on other handsets. Now the feeling is that we're dealing with a handset which is just like the Redmi Note 13 Pro, between the Galaxy A35 and the Realme 12 Pro Plus. These have been daytime shots. Let's look at the low light. Now, first of all, the photos are surprisingly bright, and I didn't feel the need to use the night mode, which is always a good thing. So you will not need to abuse the night mode because even the regular shots are fine. Pretty nice colors, and actually we don't have huge street lights, even on ultra wide, which is a big compliment for a mid-range handset out there. We also have some selfies, but they definitely need some lighting to be properly achieved. Once again, good lighting, a generous quantity of light. The bright street signs are well rendered here and well represented. Usually we have some problems in the mid-range department, but not here. I would even go as far as to say it's one of the top 5 mid-rangers when it comes to low light captures, even without the night mode, which honestly feels useless in these conditions. Okay, so we've talked about the photos. I think we can actually also discuss the videos, but for that I may require a separate application. Okay, so these are the videos taken with the handset. Let's take them one by one. So first of all, we have the selfies. Honestly, I'm not that impressed with the selfies here. I expected a bit more, so definitely will not be able to do vlogging compared to my expectations. Okay, now let's see other clips like this one here, which is basically a stabilization test. The problem here is that throughout my filming, the phone suffered a wobble effect. The image tends to wobble when you're walking around and filming. Happened once, happened twice, happened all the time, so I think it may be a bug, not just a random occurrence. We also have a color test here. The colors appear to be brighter than they were on the photos, still in a satisfying manner, not overexposed or oversaturated. And then we also have this focus test here, which is actually quite good, changing focus from the rows to the background, to the foreground, to the bottom and to the side without a problem. So focus checks out, but the stabilization is a bit underwhelming. We also have a 4K video with plenty of details, even though this grass is a bit oversaturated. I mean, don't get me wrong, the clarity is fine, but that wobble effect does appear every now and then and makes the image vibrate in an unpleasant manner. We should also have some panning with a quite beautiful looking shade of blue and pretty nice details in the scenario, even though the Full HD leaves a bit to be desired detail-wise compared to other mid-rangers. Stick to 4K if you really want the good details. Okay, so this has been the video. During the day, we have a nighttime video as well. The problem with the wobbling is amplified here. The streetlights are a bit big, but not in an exaggerated manner. And I found the microphones to be quite decent in capturing the ambience, voices, cars, birds, and other sounds. Okay, and we also have this clip here, which is Full HD this time. In Full HD, details get a bit murkier, things are a bit grayer, and the streetlight halos are just a bit bigger. But the way the calibration happens for the exposure when you switch to the light window is actually quite nice. Okay, so enough with this. I would say that there are limitations for the capture, and the video capture has some problems from what I've seen so far when it comes to that wobble effect. Now, on the connectivity side of things, this is a dual SIM phone which also has support for eSIM. There's 5G, there's Wi-Fi dual band. We also have Bluetooth 5.2. We also have GPS, NFC, and an USB-C 2.0 port at the bottom side. The calls were loud and clear, and if you get into everybody's favorite app for testing networks, we have here a bunch of results. And here we go. When it comes to Wi-Fi, we got up to 591 megapers in download, 640 megapers upload. When it comes to 5G, 117 over 67 megapers in download and upload. I would say these are fine results, but too bad that we did not get Wi-Fi 6 on the phone. Now, as far as the software is concerned, we're running here on Android 14 with a Motorola typical interface on top. It should be basically stock except for this area here where there's some customization. Starts off with the Moto app. You can go here and personalize your experience with a bunch of themes, fonts, colors, icon shapes, also lock screen, clock faces, shortcuts and more, in the vein of what iOS has been doing for a year and a half. Display size, text size, layout, fingerprint animation, sounds, dark mode and edge light. Plus we have here this area with wallpapers, some even made with AI, like style sync and more, and dynamic and also curated images. You also have the gesture control, which includes a bunch of gestures to trigger applications and features. And there's also Moto Secure with secure folder, network protection, phishing detection, auto lock network and security, and pin pad scramble, which scrambles the pin numbers, so you can actually input your pin without anyone seeing it. It also happens on POSs nowadays. Plus there's a security and privacy area here as an extra, with a privacy dashboard and a permission manager as well. Then you have tips to learn to discover to use Android 14 and the features of the phone. And finally, the display feature. You can optimize how you interact with your display. You also have the play area with gaming, media controls and Dolby Atmos. In the gaming, you have here the settings, which include the game time, toolkit access, labels, blog notifications and calls, and you can even do some recording and audio enhancements of your experience. Now, aside from that, there's the Moto Secure, which you already saw, and we also have the family space. Basically, you can create profiles for the members of your family, like grandma, grandpa, and the little one, with parental control, and see each of their spaces, each with their profiles. Then you have the gaming department with profiles for games and the gaming features you saw before. And finally, Moto Unplugged. If you're sick of getting notification, being stressed out, you can customize the experience from here with app layouts, wallpapers, also interruptions. Basically, that's how the screen will look like. Just phone calls, camera, and messages. No stress, nothing out of the ordinary. There are even more Moto apps here. So we saw before Family Space, Games, Moto, and then we have Moto Connect. You can connect to a Miracast enabled screen and do some mirroring, do some gaming, do some video calls, or simulate a desktop environment. And you also have your Ready For, which is a famous solution from Motorola. You can do app streaming, you can do the mobile desktop thing, expand the workspace by interacting with the phone apps and exchanging PC and files directly. Aside from that, you can have your phone on the PC, which is basically mirroring. And you can also have a webcam, use the handset as a webcam for your PC. You can do file transfers quickly and manage them more easily. You can turn the phone into a hotspot, which is not exactly something new. There's also PC lock, smart clipboard, and finally cross control using the mouse across tablets, laptops, and of course the phone. Now the experience is, as you can see, pretty straightforward and typical Android stuff. You got your widgets here. Once again, it feels like a Pixel, like a stock experience minus the whole Motorola thing. This is the multitasking area with the recents, and of course there's also split screen. These are the quick settings, which are pills, just like on the Pixels. And of course notifications are right below them. For security, we have a fingerprint scanner in the screen, which I just pressed and unlocked it in a pretty fast manner. I did not notice any sort of, well, bloatware here. Now, we do have LinkedIn pre-installed among a few apps. We have Opera for some reason and a few more, but no bloatware. Now we're at the end of the review and it's time for the pros and cons. On the pro side, it's a pretty looking phone with pretty fast charging. It's got a bright and crisp screen with beautiful colors, a rather potent CPU for the mid-range segment, and it's a comfy, slim and light phone. It's got IP68 certification and the battery life is pretty impressive. It takes some pretty solid bokeh and macro and close-up shots, and the selfies are not exactly bad. The interface is pretty generous with the customization options, as you saw before, and we also have the productivity features from Ready 4. The ultra-wide capture was fine by me compared to so many ultra-wide cameras out there. There's Android 14, which is pretty cleaned up, and I would say that's pretty much it on the pro side. On the cons, there's no micro SD, and also I would say that the speakers have a so-so bass and volume. I expected a bit more. The stabilization has that bug, which feels a bit annoying. There's no telephoto camera, and the zoom isn't very advanced. We don't have Wi-Fi 6, and the benchmarks were a bit below expectations. And selfie videos also felt a bit underwhelming compared to selfie photos. In the end, the only real drawback could be the stabilization bug. Now, aside from that, this is basically a lighter version of the Motorola Edge 50 Pro. Okay, so what we're dealing with is a handset which is ready for productivity. It's good looking for an influencer girl, and at the same time it has a pretty decent camera when it comes to close-ups, macros, bokeh, and even nighttime shots without the night mode, believe it or not. So in the end, I would say it's a phone fit for a lady in this hot pink, a lady who will take lots of selfies, who will take lots of close-ups of food and flowers. That's the target audience. And also productivity in the corporation maybe. That's it from us. This has been the review of the Motorola Edge 50 Fusion.